Welcome to the More Than Mortgage podcast here. I'm your host, Rick Reynolds, and I've got a special guest today in Don Potter. He's a local realtor, former law enforcement, and one hell of a hiking buddy. And so I'm excited to have him here with me. Don, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, it's great to be here. A little bit about myself. So I sell real estate, and it's a lot of fun. I enjoy that. Retired police officer who decided that I needed a new career and needed to go off into a different direction. I found real estate, and I'm super happy that I did. It's been a really good place to be.
How long have you been in the Valley now?
I've been in the Valley now for a little over 7 years.
Okay.
And I've been doing real estate for a little over 4.
All right. So what brought you here then, originally?
Grand Junction brought me here.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was living north of Denver, and I was spending a lot of time out here. I'm a big mountain biker, big hiker. Used to spend a lot of vacations on this side of the mountain. And in 2017, I was driving back toward Denver, and I hit downtown Metro Denver and just said, why am I here? This doesn't make sense. I don't want to be here. So
that's a common story, right?
Yeah, it's a very common story. And so I was able to put some stuff together, and it took about 9 months. But I found another law enforcement job. I was working in law enforcement over in the Denver area, and then I ended up taking a position with the state that moved me over here to Grand Junction, and it was awesome. I took a massive pay cut, but it got me where I needed to be. And
that's awesome.
I don't have any intention of leaving this place. This is such a cool valley.
Perfect. So since you're in law enforcement, and I love law enforcement, thanks for your service in that world. I do have a question. What's the coolest story, maybe wildest story that you can legally say? Obviously, you can't use names. But give me a fun one.
Well, I don't have to keep it friendly for the kids. Some of the crazier stories are really involve some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
I think one of the most fun stories I had, I was working overtime at the jail one day, and a guy came in to turn himself in on a warrant. So I got a radio call that there was a guy in the lobby. He needed to go be arrested and brought down to the booking area. So I went up to the booking area, and his name was Roger Hale. Okay. So I called out that name, and this guy stood up and said, "That's me." And I said, "Okay, cool, come with me." And I patted him down. I took everything out of his pockets. I put him in handcuffs. His adult daughter was standing next to him. And I took him downstairs. I handed him off to the booking guys. And about 2 minutes later, I get a call, and they said, "Hey, who's this guy you just brought down?" I said, "Well, that's Roger Hale. That's who he told me he was." He goes, "This is not Roger Hale.
Oh.
This is a Hispanic guy. Roger Hale is very clearly a white guy."
Oh, boy.
"I don't know who you just brought down here." So I went back down. I brought him down. His name was Rogelio Hale.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Small world.
Yeah. And he was actually there to pick up his wife, who was getting bonded out of jail that day.
Wow.
So I took him back upstairs and took the handcuffs off. And I asked his daughter, "Why did you let me take your dad?" He only spoke Spanish.
Okay.
And I asked her, because she spoke English, I said, "Why did you let me arrest your dad?" And she goes, "Well, I don't know. I just figured that's what happened. I didn't ask."
That's crazy.
So that was pretty cool, arresting the wrong guy for just a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And then the real Roger stood up, and I asked him, "Why didn't you say anything?" He goes, "Well, the other guy raised his hand first, so I figured maybe there was 2 of us."
Oh, wow. How crazy is that?
So that was pretty fun.
So I hear, I haven't seen it yet, but I hear there's a new documentary out about this show about the balloon boy. And rumor has it, maybe you were the first person to see this guy?
Yeah, so maybe I was. I like to say that I found Balloon Boy.
Okay.
In reality, I found the balloon.
Wow.
The balloon boy wasn't actually in the balloon, but back in 2009, when I was a young officer working the street north of Denver, I was working south of Greeley on some stuff, and there was a radio call that came out that said, "Be on the lookout for a UFO-shaped balloon."
Wow.
And it has left Fort Collins. The original call said it's headed northeast toward Nebraska. So everybody who wasn't on an active call at that time headed northeast toward Nebraska to see if they could find this balloon.
And it actually was southeast.
Yeah, I was southeast of Fort Collins, and I was tied up working on something, and all of a sudden this balloon floated over the top of me.
Wow.
So I called into dispatch that I had eyes on the balloon, and ended up chasing it for about 2 hours that day.
How cool
until
is
it
that?
came down in a field just north of the airport.
Hey, documentary, you left somebody out.
Yeah, so the new documentary, if you watch it.
Have you watched it?
I've watched it. Yeah, of course, I've watched it. I've got a little Topps trading card with a piece of the balloon.
Oh, wow.
in my house
That's cool.
for memory purposes. But if you watch the documentary, the helicopter pilot says, "Hey, we headed southeast looking for the balloon." They don't tell you why they were headed southeast, but I'm the reason that they headed southeast instead of northeast.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's cool.
just a little clarification that Netflix didn't give.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. That's really cool. So I
yeah,
know since you've been here, obviously you mentioned that you do real estate. One of the
yeah.
things I know about you and where you and I really got to know each other was through the Grand Junction Area Realtor Association board.
Right.
And now you're in the special place of being our leader as the president of the board. So tell me a little bit about that role and
Yeah,
your passion for that.
sure. So I don't know about being the leader. I am the president of the board. I don't know if anybody actually follows me or not, but
Fair enough.
I do run the meetings, so that's a pretty big deal.
Somebody's got a
Yeah,
gavel. It's
I got
you.
to smack the gavel twice. Um, the association represents almost 850 realtors
Wow.
in the valley here,
Yeah.
and so it not only works for the realtors to try and improve our craft and to make real estate kind of a better career.
Okay.
We also work a lot for the public.
I like
So
that.
we all live here. We're all residents. We all at one point bought a house. We all plan on buying a
Exactly.
house later. So we know the issues that are involved in purchasing housing. And so one of the things that the association does is we build a lot of relationships with local groups, especially local governments.
Yeah.
We work in housing day in and day out. Every morning we're looking at issues affecting the housing market. Every afternoon we're looking at issues affecting the housing market. So we're kind of an expert in the field,
That's awesome.
and we really work hard as an association to try and have our voice heard. A lot of policy issues can be made, or policies can be made,
Yeah.
issues can be decided just internally a
Yes.
lot of times within government. And so we reach out with the help of our government affairs team toward local governments to try and not steer housing policy, but give our recommendations
That's
so
cool.
that governments aren't unknowingly hurting housing policy and making it more difficult.
It's a vital role. I was on the board when we voted in the government affairs. I was a non-voting member,
Right.
but I was on the
Right.
board at that time and was grateful and to see how much it's grown in the 2 years since I served on the board and your leadership and the leadership of those obviously before you and obviously I think we got great leadership coming up. With that, there's a ton of conversation right now around affordable housing and attainable housing. The world and obviously government policy utilizes the term affordable housing. I think attainable housing is something that we've started utilizing amongst ourselves as I'm a lender and obviously you're a realtor, and then amongst our constituents is attainable housing. What's attainable and how? So tell me a little bit what you believe the difference is in affordable housing versus attainable housing.
Yeah, those are difficult terms to really describe. The governmental entities really like to use the term affordable housing.
Yeah,
I think it has a better ring to it when you're trying to sell it to the public.
exactly.
In reality, affordable housing doesn't really exist here.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now, 68% of the population of Mesa County does not make enough to afford the median home.
Wow.
And traditionally, affordable housing would be spending less than 30% of your income every month on housing.
Yep.
It's just not a reality in this valley for most people. And so we've switched to the tune of attainable housing, that you can get into a house, but we're not going to tell you that it's affordable.
Exactly.
So we try to be upfront with people, and you know that from the mortgage world. Look, we would love it if we can get you into something that's under 30% of your income, but it's just not realistic. So attainable is a much more realistic standard to utilize. One of the other things that we do at the association is we have a pretty good relationship with the Grand Junction Economic Partnership.
Yeah.
And we try to leverage whatever power we can to raise wages within the valley. If that's bringing in helping them bring in new employers, or just advocating on behalf of increased wages. We understand that if 68% of your population can't buy the median home, there needs to be some kind of wage increase for those people. Otherwise, they're just going to leave. And we don't want that. We don't want people who have lived in Mesa County their entire life to up and head south somewhere where the home housing is cheaper just because they can't afford it. We don't want the college kids, the engineers who are coming out and have big dreams to look around and go, I really can't make a life for myself here. I'm going to go somewhere else.
Exactly.
We want that talent to stay here.
For sure.
So that's another thing that the association really works toward.
That's awesome. You kind of answered this next one a little bit, but how do we work? I know there's been a lot of connection with Grand Junction's got a housing resources group now. I just lost the name of their division, but I think it's housing resources. There's a housing resources of Western Colorado, but then there is a Grand Junction housing program. Maybe that's their title.
Yeah.
How do we work with the different stakeholders in the community to try to come together and help create more attainable housing?
And I can't remember exactly what the group is called either, but this is a pretty cool idea that the city of Grand Junction has recently started a citizens kind of committee or a stakeholders committee. So it's not just the policymakers within City Hall who are saying we're going to do something. They've convened a group of local realtors, builders, citizens, all kinds of people to have a say in how housing policy is formed and how it's led forward. So that's something that really didn't happen in the past. And we really commend the city council and the city leadership, the new city manager, for being willing to do that and to listen to the community before they enact whatever policies they're considering.
If you were to evaluate, obviously we get lumped in with Metro Denver, what we call the Denver MSA. We get lumped in with them a ton overall as a Colorado picture. It sounds like their market's kind of coming down, and our market is still pretty stable. I don't want to overly tune that. That's your expertise. Obviously, I just do the lending. But how do we help make an impact in our state when there's drastically different perspectives in what's needed because of location?
Unfortunately, on statewide initiatives, we have very little say. That's just a matter of population. There's 6.5 million people in Denver and about 5 million, or 6.5 million people in Colorado, and about 5 million of those live east of the divide. So just by sheer numbers, we have very little influence in what happens under the dome in Denver. So it's really important that we work with our local representatives to try to impact local policy as much as we can. There are a lot of statewide initiatives that we have no choice over. They just have to be implemented. We don't get to opt out. We wish we could, but we can't.
There's no dislike button.
So we really focus on the things that we can potentially affect, and just kind of shake our heads at whatever's happening in Denver during any legislative session.
Well, let's get off the serious stuff, and now let's talk about the fun stuff. You and I have done a couple of hikes together. You were training for a triathlon recently. We won't talk about the outcome of that. Obviously, the swimming and the heat and all of that.
We absolutely can talk about that. So
I didn't want it to be negative because I didn't view it as negative either. I thought you went out and busted your A. And
I went out and I gave it my best, and I ended up did not finish. I didn't complete that, and so it's on my list to go back. I have my bib number from that race with a big red DNF hanging on my wall in my garage where I can see it every day to remind me. It's the only race I've ever done. I've done probably 100 different organized races that I did not finish the race.
That's wild.
So looking at the results of the race and seeing that next to my name, it's not a negative thing.
Oh, 100%.
No,
it's an opportunity to grow.
Yeah, it's absolutely a motivator. It's to remind me that I can't have that happen again. And sure, maybe it happened. Maybe it will happen again. I don't know. It's not going to stop me from doing it in the future.
So tell me, you've done a ton of hikes, a ton of tough mudders and odds and end different events, marathons maybe. I don't know what all you've done. What's the hardest race you've ever participated in?
The hardest race I ever did was a Spartan sprint, which is a 5K.
All right.
And a lot of that was mental. I had some friends that said, hey, we're going to go run this Spartan race. I didn't really know what it was. It's a 5K. And I thought, okay, cool. It's a 5K. I'm going to go jog for 25 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. That's cool. No.
Hour and a half later.
Yeah, an hour and a half later in a 5K with your arms just on fire. And that was back in the day. Spartan used to have it that if you didn't complete an obstacle, you got to do 30 burpees before you moved on to the next
Oh,
obstacle.
wow.
So part of it is like there's a spear throw, and if your spear doesn't lodge in the target, if it falls to the ground, 30 burpees.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it. They've changed it up a little bit. They now have where you can take a quarter-mile extra lap
Oh, okay.
instead of burpees. But back in the early
Burpees
days of
sound
the
so
Spartan
more
race,
Spartanish than a quarter
yeah,
mile out of the way.
I don't remember the total number of burpees that I did that day, but it was a lot.
That's freaking
And
awesome.
when I got done, yeah, I didn't even want to tell people that it took me an hour and a half to do a 5K, but
That's wild.
it was the
What was the
hardest race I've done.
what was the hardest event that you got to and you're like, this is crazy?
Um, Probably the spear throw, because
The
I
spear
thought
throw.
it should be simple, right? You think I'm just
Yeah.
throwing a stick at a bale of hay. What's so hard about this? And then it doesn't go in and it falls to the ground. But
Yeah.
those races involve picking up, I don't know, 50-pound concrete balls and walking around and
Oh, wow.
putting a 75-pound backpack full of rocks on your back and hiking up a hill. And
Oh,
there are just so many
Cameron Haynes life.
fun things that you get to do in addition to the running that I wasn't ready for.
That's awesome.
And so that I would definitely say that's probably the hardest. That was when I was just getting into running as well. I played organized sports for a long time. And then as I got older and the younger kids were just outshining me, I decided I should go do something that's not quite as competitive, where I can just compete against myself a little bit. And I found obstacle course racing and running.
Do hard things.
Yeah, like go do fun stuff that you might hurt yourself. You got to sign a death waiver. Just go have fun.
That's awesome. So what's your favorite hike in Grand Junction or the surrounding area?
My favorite place to be out here in Grand Junction is the Gunnison Bluffs Trail system.
Okay. We were supposed to do that. We got to do that.
We need to get out there sometime. I mountain bike out there. I trail run out there. I just walk out there. And the biggest attraction to me is how isolated it is.
Yeah.
Even though it's one of the closest trail systems to town. A lot of people don't know it exists. Yeah. You can go out there and not ever see another person. You're right on the Gunnison River. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It's not tough terrain. It's not a hard hike, but just for getting away from the city out into the wilderness in 10 minutes is amazing.
That's cool. So I know you like to work and take your kid to the park. We were joking about this the other day. And so I thought this would be a fun conversation, because I know people do this. Like, people go to the park with their kids and they work and they get things done, and they obviously play, whatever. What are you going to do? And because I know how much you like it, what are you going to do when she doesn't want to go to the park anymore?
Yeah, this is something I'm really worried about. One of my favorite parts of working in real estate is that a lot of what I do can be done remotely. And so I'm really fortunate. I get to take my daughter to school every morning. I get to pick her up almost every afternoon.
That's awesome.
And most days when I pick her up, we head to a park for a couple hours. We go straight from school to a park, and I sit there with my laptop and I make phone calls. And yeah, it's one of the things that I'm really not looking forward to is when she gets old enough that she doesn't want to go to the park anymore.
She's going to take the boy to the park, and Dad doesn't get to go.
she might take a boy to a park, and I still want to go to the park, but I don't want to be that guy sitting by myself outside of the playground.
Exactly.
So I'm trying to figure out which parks I can go to. Fortunately, we've got the river trail through town. And so I found a couple of spots where I can sit by the river by myself and not look like that creepy guy that's just sitting there by the playground. But I am really going to miss that. That's just a huge plus to the day when I can see her out there getting exercise and running around, and I can still be productive.
That's awesome. Well, we're almost done. Got a few quick hitters for you here. You know I'm a foodie. I always like to know where the really cool places are to eat. So what's your favorite place to eat in town?
It's got to be Mary's.
Mary's up on Orchard Mesa.
Orchard Mesa. Yeah, I live on Orchard Mesa,
That's
so
amazing.
I'm a little bit biased toward that part of town. But yeah, just homemade food, local family that's been here forever. And it's heavy breakfast food too, which is my favorite meal of the day. So
exactly.
It's got to be Mary's.
You're the role of law enforcement and community?
It's really to be a part of the community. It's kind of, law enforement has really changed over the last, 15, 20 years. And I think it's changed to the good for most of that.
That's cool.
It's really changed from a strictly enforcement type business to more of a almost therapeutic type business.
Exactly.
One of the things that people don't really realize is, I hope I'm getting this stat right. They say that the average person will experience 2 to 3 traumatic events, severely traumatic events over their lifetime. But a law enforcement officer will experience 600 to 700 over the course of a career.
That's crazy.
Because you're always going to interact with people on the worst day of their life.
Yep.
That's one of the reasons that I decided to step away from law enforcement early. So I'm technically a retired law enforcement officer. There's a federal law that says as long as you've been an officer for more than 10 years, you get the term retired. So I have a retired badge.
Awesome.
But I'm still too young. I still have to work. But I stepped away because I didn't want to be trapped going to those traumatic experiences over and over and over again. I knew that what it did to me personally and how it would affect me in the future. And so I needed to steer away. But it's always important to remember that law enforcement is our neighbors.
Yep. Agreed.
And you don't know what they've gone through that day. You might be on a simple traffic stop with a cop and he may be agitated, but you don't know what he was dealing with 10 minutes ago.
Exactly.
It could have been the worst situation that nobody in their life should ever see. And now he's got to deal with you on what should be a routine traffic stop. Yeah, your taillight's out, or you ran a red light and it's something that he has to address with you.
One last hopefully touching question here. Obviously you've been part of buying and selling a lot of homes since you joined the business. Tell me the one that stands out for whatever reason.
I don't know that I can say that there's one that stands out. I think that every first-time home buyer stands out for me. Cool. And it's part of the way that our society is built. Home ownership is one of the best ways to build generational wealth.
Agreed.
And you see the stats of, I think the average renter has a net worth of like $10,000 and the average homeowner has a net worth of $400,000.
That's a big gap. Huge.
Yeah.
Gap.
And one of the struggles that we see now is that the average homeowner or first-time home buyer is 38 years old nationally.
Wow.
So I really love it. I just had a closing earlier this year of some kids in their mid-20s that were able to make it happen.
That's
and
cool.
I know that they're starting, especially in this area where our values, as you mentioned, they're not decreasing. They're kind of flat right now, but we anticipate they'll go up in the future. Just being able to see somebody get out of the rental trap and into home ownership is absolutely rewarding.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. And that's it for the first episode of More Than a Mortgage with Rick Reynolds. I want to thank Don Potter for being here, and we love you, Grand Junction, and go have a great day.
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
Thank you.